This is Colin O'Keefe here for LXBN TV. As about everyone's well aware, Radio Shack is filing for bankruptcy. But in a story that's flying somewhat under the radar, Radio Shack will be selling its customer data as part of those bankruptcy proceedings. To discuss, we bring in Jeannie Sheahan of Davis Wright Tremaine and the firm's privacy and security law blog. Jeannie, first, for those who are unaware, can you explain exactly what's happening and why? I mean, just how valuable is this data?
Absolutely. So basically, a little background on the case is back in February, Radio Shack filed for bankruptcy in a Delaware bankruptcy court. And basically, the issue was they had over $1 billion in debt. So what the bankruptcy judge was doing was coordinating the sale of $1.2 billion in assets. One component of those assets was the IP of Radio Shack, which actually was worth $26.2 million. And within that data was actually the customer information of 117 million Radio Shack customers. That information in particular included over 65 million mailing addresses and names, over 8 million email addresses, purchase histories, and phone numbers. And the reason why this information is so valuable is because it's a treasure trove of data in terms of, marketing opportunities and specific information on customers that people could want to solicit to. But it also equally is very sensitive information that people could potentially not want disclosed just because Radio Shack is going bankrupt.
Absolutely. And then second, what are the concerns that have been raised here? I understand Apple, for example, has taken a bit of issue with what's going on.
Yes. So there were over 38 states attorneys generals, including that was led by Texas, that objected to this sale. And objected in addition to several large companies, including Apple and AT&T. Specifically, the FTC had a problem and signaled, it was FTC Consumer Privacy Director Jessica Rich signaled that this could actually be a potential Section 5 violation for an unfair and deceptive trade practice, because basically the customer sale was in a manner that did not comport with the that were given to customers in the stores and in Radio Shack's privacy policies online. So the FTC gave specific recommendations to the bankruptcy court in terms of how they thought this data should be sold and what sort of limitations should be put in place. Apple's objection was a little bit different. Their concern was that some of the data included information about the purchase history of particular Apple products. And so their objections were a little more limited, and specifically they emphasized that this information was actually not property of the estate and therefore should not be something that can be sold as an asset in the course of. And they specifically emphasized that the data that was being sold violated particular contracts that Apple had with Radio Shack.
I see. And then lastly, I understand there have been some recent developments here, a bit of a decision. What's the latest on this story?
So the latest is there was actually an all-day mediation a little over a week ago in which the bankruptcy court went through each type of data that was at issue and actually significantly narrowed what was ultimately sold. So the court specifically ordered that the data for over 50 million customers should be deleted, and then narrowed the data that was sold. So for each customer, there were actually over 170 different customer data points, and the court limited the sale to 7 specific data points. In particular, the court ruled that information such as social security numbers, debit cards, credit cards, and phone numbers could not be disclosed in the course of this sale. What the court ultimately did say could be disclosed was the email address for the last 2 years, provided that the customers be given notice of the particular sale and an opportunity to opt out. The court was also very specific that he wanted the ultimate buyer to abide by the privacy policies that Radio Shack had in place when the customers were interacting with Radio Shack.
I see. Very interesting. It's interesting to see how this thing progressed. I mean, I think most consumers would agree they wouldn't like all that data and all those data points out there. So it's interesting to see how this progresses, and I'll be interested to see what the follow-up is as well. Once again, that was Jeannie Sheahan of Davis Wright Tremaine. For more of her insight and from her colleagues in this space, be sure to visit privsecblog.com. Thanks for joining me today, Jeannie.
Thank you.